Welcome to this week's episode of the Evolve to Succeed podcast. Our guest this week is Cassidy Macken from Cassidy's Beauty Academy. Cassidy sat on a panel for an event that we ran at the Bournemouth University on funding your startup. She was brilliant on the panel and we thought we had to get her as a guest on the podcast. So here she is telling her story about her startup journey. If you do really enjoy the episode, then please do help us and subscribe on your favourite channel. But for now, let's get on with the show. Welcome, Cassidy, to the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Hello, great to be here.
Really looking forward to our conversation. Yours is a startup story that you shared at one of our events recently, and David and Rachel were there, and they said, you've got to get Cassidy on the podcast. She's got a great story about her endeavour, the resilience, getting the funding to get a business underway. So hopefully that's what you're going to share with our listeners today.
Absolutely. Business is never easy. And if something like a podcast can help other people get into that, then great.
Yeah, perfect. So we should probably start with, what was the inspiration behind starting Cassidy's Beauty Academy? And what was your life like pre-starting the business?
So it's been a long journey. I first got into the beauty industry when I was professionally 16.
Okay.
But prior to that, I think I was about 14 when I first started painting press-on nails for friends and starting exploring that sort of industry. So it's always been something that even in my teenage years, I've been really passionate about. As soon as I turned 16, my gran, she's amazing. She's been in the beauty industry for the past 35-ish years. Okay,
so it's in the family.
It is. It's a family talent, I'd say. And she's just wonderful. We call her a glam marv more than anything.
Glamour, I love
She's
that.
so glam. It's incredible. So yeah, she booked me onto my first ever nail course as soon as I turned 16, as soon as I was old enough to do it. And it just went from there.
Okay.
I worked in hospitality for a while from the age of 16 to 18 in hotels, which if you have teenagers at home, my best advice is tell them to get a job in hospitality for a year because there is no harder work.
I've got a 20-year-old daughter, but between the ages of 16 when she went into the kitchens, was doing kitchen portering, then got serving in the restaurant, then went behind the bar. She turned 18.
Yeah.
And it actually was the making of her.
Yeah.
It's
If there's
that.
anything that teaches you discipline and hard work and, busy environments and how to juggle it and just...
And manage people, especially when you're behind the bar.
The people skills.
In hotels, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, it's such an experience, but it's also fun and sociable as well. It's fast paced. So yeah, highly recommend hotel and hospitality experience. It can make people, like, the work ethic you gain from that is incredible. So then after that, it's crazy. It was such a spur of the moment thing. And you'll hear this a lot along my story. In later life, I've realized I have ADHD. And now I look back and I think, oh, it was quite obvious.
That's why that happened.
So I was walking down the road from the co-op around my corner from my mum's house, walking back to my mum's house. And I walked past this shop. And this shop had a little sign in the window, and it had been a tiny little beauty salon, as long as I can remember, but it always had curtains up and all sorts. You could barely ever see it, and it was quite dark. To rent, £50 a week. And I was like, that's 2 sets of nails. I could do that. I didn't counter into the fact of, I have electric to pay and
all
water
and
all the product I need and kitting it out and everything else. But I phoned up and I went, hey, can I view this shop? He was like, yeah. And this was 2 weeks before my 18th birthday. Okay. Like, I was a baby. And I wasn't even that good at nails back then, to be truthful. And I went for it. It was literally my 18th birthday, and I signed this bit of paper to say, let's get this shop. And my gran had used my childhood savings to move to London when she had a life change. So her repaying that to me was kind of helping me get out this shop, sending me on more courses. Not gonna lie, she's put a lot more back into me than those savings she borrowed all these years ago. But to have that belief in you from someone is just incredible.
Brilliant.
So we got the shop done and dusted. It took 4 months to get the shop up to scratch. It was wild. It was falling apart, but we were like, we can do this. And I had that shop for about 2.5 years. In that time, I had a baby. I had my first daughter when I was 19. So fairly young, and whilst you're running a business and becoming a mum.
That's quite a combination for a 19-year-old.
Yes. So I went back to work when she was 5 weeks old because I wasn't happy with the cover I had in the shop at the time. I was still breastfeeding. So my stepdad would run back from the house whilst he was babysitting, or my mum or whoever else. to collect milk, to go back to feed the baby. Like, it was such a juggling act. And I did end up getting rid of that shop when she was just over a year old because it was too much.
Too overwhelming.
It was. Went back to work at the hotel for a bit again, found out I was pregnant again. And this time it was twin boys at that. So I was like, okay, it's time to step back. And I got into network marketing for a little bit. My friend had got me into it. And obviously the business models of network marketing, you don't have to put capital into it. They've got the stock in a warehouse. You advertise it. If you sell it, you make money. Realistically, it is one of the most, at least, risky businesses that you can financially
get into. But you're out
there
and you're independent, aren't you? You're doing your thing. Yeah, so it does work for some.
Yeah, so for 5 years it did work. Unfortunately, I didn't have a great experience. They changed the contract and it meant that my wages went from pretty all right to absolutely shocking. Like, not worth doing the post on Facebook to make this money for, to be honest. So I left, threw a tantrum. And I always said, my backup plan will always be beauty. I have my qualifications. It's a lifelong skill. If this goes wrong, that's what I'm getting back into. So I did. As soon as that went wrong, I took every last little bit of payments, like my last ever pay that was decent from them. And I went and invested it into new kit. I went and subletted somewhere and I got back into beauty.
Okay.
And then within...
That's still a long way from running an academy, isn't it?
Yes. So when I had my old business and I was at that point of, I think I need to give it up, be a mum more, I was at a crossroads. It was either get out alone, grab the shop next door, expand, open up a four-room salon. And I wanted to get into training and I sort of toyed with it, threw a few ideas out there, but I just realized that at that moment in time, I couldn't give it everything I wanted. I just needed to step back and do something a little less high needs. And actually, after being in network marketing for 5 years, the things that I learned from that, from other people within my business, my team leader at the time, I'll give her a shout out, Kelly Wilson. She is an absolute icon within network marketing. She is huge. She was one of the first ever people to hit this massive high up promotion organically. She knows her stuff. So the people skills, the skills within business, everything that you gain from the amazing people around you. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes the companies cannot be great.
Yeah, it's a different life, that corporate life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The people within the corporate just didn't quite get it. Yeah. But the people on the ground working within it, my God, there are some powerful women. There are incredible people. So the skills I gained from that, then getting back into beauty and going, right, I want to be my own boss. I want to do something bigger. I want to fill a gap in the industry. And the one thing that I knew was that education in the beauty industry is pretty rubbish.
Okay.
It's an industry standard that there's two routes mainly. You can either go to college, do a year-long course, complete your MVQ, to which the quality of products in most colleges are very cheap because, funding in these places.
They haven't got the funding to provide top quality products.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're working with, quite honestly, rubbish products that are hard to work with. And it's just not a great experience. You're in very busy classes, 20, 30 students in a class with one mentor that's meant to show you all how to be. It just doesn't work. And then the other option is private courses. And within the industry, it's very normal to do 1 to 2 day courses.
Okay.
Which, would you feel comfortable going to someone for treatments that's only been trained for a 6-hour classroom course?
Wow.
No. And I've done all the different courses. I've done a level 3 diploma in the college. I've done 1-day courses, online courses.
You've experienced it all.
This is it. I've trained with individual people that are independent. I've trained with big name brands. And just throughout it all, I was just never satisfied with my education. And I felt there was just so much that I still had to learn and find out myself independently. And with that, if you are someone that's driven and recognizes you still need to learn, great, you're going to self-teach. But if you're someone that doesn't realize there's more to it, or maybe you struggle to find that motivation to self-learn, you're stuck where you were after that 6-hour course. So I knew there was a gap to fill.
Okay.
I knew that I wanted to be something big and great. I knew that I didn't want to just be a sublet beautician for all my days. I knew I wanted to create something amazing. And I knew that I had the business skills that I had learned over those past 5 years to create that. So I was like, right, back when I gave up my salon, I had that little dream. I prioritized family life over it. Now my kids are all in school. They've just started, or I think my twins were just about to start going to school. I've got the time.
But you've got some choice and some time back to do something for you and to put that life back, that time back into business.
Exactly. So I was like, let's pick up right where we left off. So not only did I then look at doing education and treatments, I also then spotted that wholesalers around here weren't really stocking too many brands that people are after. Some of the biggest brands that people want weren't on the shelves. And there was one in particular that there's not a single stockist in the South Coast.
Right.
So I was like, but like most techs I know use this brand. It's called CJP Nail Systems.
Right.
It's a small family-owned brand, but it's not small anymore. It's absolutely huge. They are created by nail techs for nail techs, and the quality of their products is outstanding. They are revolutionary. They lead the way, and their products are just second to none.
Right. So you saw that gap in the market. You saw that supply wasn't there. And
exactly.
Off you went.
So one of the first emails I sent was to CJP, and I said, look, is this area available? Because they do have like you have to have X distance between
licensing, franchising.
You get your zones. Exactly. Just like you would with a franchise.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that's available. And I was like, great.
Wow.
Where do I get this funding? And then I looked into that and it snowballed. And then 10 months later,
here we are.
Here we are.
And can you remember back, was there any fear or trepidation starting this second business?
Loads.
Compared to what perhaps happened as a result of the first? Or what were those feelings like, Cassidy? Because there'll be people listening to this podcast that are thinking about starting their own business and perhaps are a little bit crucified by that sense of fear or trepidation. So what hints, tips have you got, and what did it feel like to you this time around?
So one thing I do believe is that if it doesn't scare you, your dreams aren't big enough, because growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. If it feels comfortable, you're not growing.
You're cruising, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. You've got to get out that comfort zone to make a difference, because if we keep repeating the same things, we're going to get the same results. Yeah. So it's a bit scary. It's change, and change is never going to be easy for anyone. So obviously having my old salon, when it did good, when I had it running and it was going, it did good. It was only that sort of, I came to that crossroads and I needed to make that decision.
Yeah, I suppose it was business was trading well, but it was just a life choice to go, what's my priority right now?
Exactly. So it's not like it was a disaster. Yeah. It crashed and burned. So I don't think I had too much fear from that. But, it's still what if I do feel overwhelmed from it? What if it does get too much again? What ifs? But I think having the experience now of having that, it was great to go, well, I can be proactive on that. Yeah. Here's how I'm not going to burn out. This is how I'm going to balance my time. This is what I'm going to do to utilize staffing to make sure that this works. So it's always going to be scary, but you kind of just got to embrace it. If you've really got that dream that you want, you've got to embrace that fear. For me, I think the hardest thing was paperwork. I'm not a paperworky person. I hate it. So pushing through loan applications, creating teaching manuals, applying for accreditation. There's a lot of paperwork.
So did your academy run off your own teaching? Have you developed your own teaching methodologies and materials, or is that something you license from somewhere else? How does that all work? And is it a very regulated kind of industry?
Truthfully, no. Yeah. You've got to find a good accreditation company still, despite the fact that they are the ones accrediting and making sure you're up to scratch. There are still accreditation companies that aren't as good as others. Yeah. Truthfully, the regulations within the beauty industry are pretty shocking.
And would you like to see them improve?
100%. It needs to change. Truthfully, I believe we should be like America.
Okay.
Rare thing to come out my mouth.
Especially at the moment, Cassidy.
100%. But if there's one thing that they do know how to do, that is licensing within the beauty and hair community. So over in America, you have to sit yearly exams to be able to have your cosmetology license. You have to sit X amount of hours of training to get your license. I believe in Texas, we had this in an event we attended. Yeah. There was a lady over from Texas that owns an academy, and I think it was something like 3,000 hours of training and sets must be completed before they're even allowed a license. Compare that to the fact that people are running 6-hour day-long courses and giving people a certificate over here. Ridiculous.
It's one extreme to the other, isn't it?
Completely and utterly. We have no yearly boosters. We have nothing. And you don't have to be qualified in this country. I could go out and start doing hair. I don't have a qualification. Legally, I'm doing nothing wrong. I wouldn't be insured and I wouldn't have public liability, but the police couldn't turn up and go, you're not allowed to do hair. You don't have a license. Well, it doesn't matter. In this country, you don't need one.
So is that a business challenge to you, and how are you overcoming it, that you're trying to support and professionalize an industry that isn't particularly professional in some areas of that industry right now? And how do customers choose to use you rather than just go do a quick 6-hour course and I can then go and do nails?
This is it. So obviously we have clientele that are very different to the people that are attending 6-hour courses. The first thing we're looking at is educating these people. We utilize social media a lot to educate. We're very truthful with what we say to people. There's a lot of non-standard nail salons out there, but one of the things that I used to really speak to people when they go, oh, I go to one of these non-standardized nail bars, and I would say to them, okay. And I used to go on a rant of they use this, they use bad products, they do X, Y, and Z. Given up with that. And the first question I ask them now is I just look at them and I go, cool. Have you ever seen them sanitize anything whilst you've been there? And you just see the colour drop from their face. And I go, cool. Have you ever filled out a health and safety questionnaire to make sure you've got no blood-borne diseases that could transfer through a cut from the nail file? And they're like, oh, and they suddenly realise that nail bar could have given them hepatitis, AIDS, HIV, like anything. Fungal infections, all sorts. It's disgusting. And I go, cool. By the way, we sanitize all of our stuff and you have to fill in a health and safety questionnaire to have your nails done with us.
That new world.
And they suddenly go, can I book in? So, we're £5 more expensive a set, but it's worth it.
It's worth it, definitely. And so do you run an academy alongside delivering treatments and the wholesale?
Yes.
You're kind of that one-stop shop.
So we've got the 3 streams of income, yes, and they both kind of perform equally, which is really nice. So we do treatments where we offer nails primarily. I've got a junior who I've trained 100% in-house, and she has just been awarded the #1 winner of the National Beauty Awards Best New Nail Talent in the UK and Ireland nationally.
Congratulations to her.
Thank you very much.
That's amazing. And to you for training her.
So proud of her. Credit to her. She is talented. She's a dream to teach. It's been both of us. It's definitely not just our teaching, but she has had so much support from us. She has taken in everything, and you see the difference, and it's outstanding.
Brilliant.
It's amazing. So we have that. So I do a few days of clients, and then I dedicate my other few days a week to teaching. So I divide it up. And then Maddie does front of house and does nails. And then I do a few other beauty treatments as well. Advanced contouring and spray tans, brows, a few lash bits, just a few other little bits. And then we've obviously got wholesale where we've got some own brand products. We've just launched or are about to launch our own brand e-files and e-file bits, which is just so exciting.
Brilliant.
They are literally on the airplane now. Won't be long till they're here. And we've already got like our own nail files, our own glitter range from a business that we purchased all the stock from because she decided, well, she doesn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
It's quite sweet. Used to use her when I had my old shop as well. So it's a nice little circle.
Life. Yeah. Circular life.
Yeah.
And when you're 10, nearly 11 months into this journey now, did you ever dream the business would be where it is today when you started it? How's those aspirations changed for you, Cassidy?
Oh God, that's a good question. So originally I didn't think we'd be doing treatments as much. Okay. I wanted to focus more on wholesale and on teaching. But one thing as a business you learn is if you have someone willing to give you money for something and you have rent to pay, you do it. So, more people wanted treatments. So we picked up a bit more on that, divvied up our time a bit differently, balanced it out. So I didn't see that happening as much. Okay. Although now I do see it as a learning curve and see how vital it is to be doing that. As well as that, it's just incredible to see how many people are recommending us and utilizing us for their training. It's amazing to see how they're thriving outside of the academy as well once they've qualified and gone on to do that.
Okay, brilliant. And you see quite a few beauty nail bars cropping up in a lot of places now. What does that competitive environment look like for you? And how do you set yourself apart from that competition?
So I think for us setting ourselves apart, it is very much the fact that we have advanced techniques. We stay very up to date with our own education. Obviously, our junior Madison gets education all the time. If we've got a spare hour in the day, I'm like, right, what can we go over? What do you want to recap? What do you feel like you're struggling with? And for me, I'm investing in further education for myself and pushing skills all the time. Not only that, we educate on how we're using good, high quality products instead of cheap stuff somewhere on the internet that who knows what's in it. So for us, that keeps us competitive. People know the quality you're getting. You're going to an academy where they're confident enough to share those skills and teach other people. But as well as that, I don't feel like it has to be hugely competitive because of how big of a growth industry the beauty industry is. It's one of those that home DIY kits pop up and they very quickly go again. There's always little trends of at-home bits, to save money, and they very quickly go again because people realize they just can't quite do it the same.
Yeah, they can't get that quality. They can't get the professional finish.
Exactly. So, it's one of those industries that, and we're not very machine replaceable. Technology, can support us, but have you seen those nail painting machines on the internet?
No,
where you
I haven't.
put your hand
It's not the sort of thing I Google at the weekends.
So, they've started propping up in probably the past 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, we can use these to paint really cool nail art. It prints designs on. And I think people, it might have been back when I had my old shop, and people went, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm going to invest in one. It'll be so handy for designs. And I cannot tell you the last time I heard of someone buying one since then. They very much, that first year, everyone was going, oh my gosh, let's fork out £2,000 on them. And they've gone in a cupboard and they're just not used at all.
So there is a bit in you that I'm hearing, and it's quite interesting, is this growth mindset, this always wanting to be better, always having a view on actually what can I do to improve myself. Where does that come? Where does that drive to always improve come from, Cassidy?
Gosh, I don't know where it's come from, but I just believe that if you think you're done learning within your industry, you should quit.
Yeah.
There's always new things coming. And I think the beauty industry especially is so fast paced. There's always a new product coming out. There's always changes, new techniques. You can't sit still in the beauty industry. If you sit still for too long, especially with nails where there's a new trend every month, if you sit still for a couple of weeks in the nail industry, you've missed another trend. You have to move. You can't sit still. Your clients come in going, I've just seen this new trend on Instagram. I want it on my nails. If you don't know how to do that, you're screwed.
You're sort of done, aren't you? You're dead. They'll go somewhere else and off you go.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a trend. You've probably got 10 clients that are going to want that in the next week. Sorry to say, but you got to keep up.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's kind of that kind of thing that was almost forced within the beauty industry. You have to keep up. You have to keep learning. And because it is competitive, if you haven't learned those trends, there's a competitor that has.
And you talk quite openly earlier in this conversation about ADHD and that kind of more recent diagnosis, and probably the pennies dropped and you can connect some dots. But how does having ADHD affect how you need to run your business?
So obviously there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
I feel some people look at their ADHD as a huge hindrance. And don't get me wrong, there are things that I think, oh God, this would be so much easier if I was just wired neurotypically. Yeah. It'd be great. Just if my brain could just create a bit more dopamine, that'd be fab. But then also there's a lot of positives to it. And I think people brush over that fact quite often. For example, ADHDers are known for being quite quick to find solutions. And, they're known as, a lot of ADHD people are quite funny because we can find jokes within things quickly because we're quite fast responsive. We're also fast paced. We don't like to be sat down and boring. We like go, go, go. It keeps us busy. Yeah. We need it.
Yeah. So that energy that you've got, you think comes from it?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And that dopamine hit when you finish or achieve a task.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I do think that a lot of business owners I know are ADHD. And I would confidently say there is some correlation there.
I think having worked with many hundreds of business owners over the years, a lot of the successful ones, and you see it even with some of those names that we could name that are quasi-celebrities, they are neurodiverse, aren't
100%.
Because it's one of the things that gives them the drive to go and do something or create something.
Yeah. I think
themselves.
also having less fear of failure,
Yeah.
because we don't think ahead too much. We go, that's a cool idea. I'm going to do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Screw it.
Off
like,
we go.
hands on heart, the conversation that happened with me and my husband, I went, I've got this cool idea. And I just got back into beauty. I've probably been back for about 6 months. I said, I've got this idea. I would love to have a wholesalers locally, one that actually stocks the good brands that people love, things like CJP, and then smaller independent brands to give them a chance as well. Shout out to Gemma Co Massage Balms. She's a local business just up the road. She's amazing. And she sells very well in our academy. She's not a big known name.
Yeah.
She's amazing, but she's independent, and we gave her a chance.
Brilliant.
Best chance we made. So, you know, I sat down and I said, I'd love to do this one day. It's not a right now plan. It's an in the future idea. It's not a right now idea. But wouldn't it be cool? And 4 months later, I had a shop 25k loan and I was on my way.
And off you went, yeah.
We were laying down the carpet tiles and he went, do you remember when you told me this was a future plan, not a right now
Someday
idea?
in the future.
That was 4 months ago, Cassidy. And I was like, was it really? I one night went, I've been looking into that idea, by the way. I went, oh, right, here we go. Thinking it was just another one of these ideas that would die out. And I went, thinking of applying for 25 grand loan. He went, what? I was like, well, there's people my age that have got more debt than that with finance cars and uni debt.
Uni debt would be a great example.
University debt, cars on finance,
yeah,
mortgages. I know people in hundreds of thousands of pounds of debt, but it's good debt.
Yeah.
It's car debt, house debt, so it's not debt, but it is.
It's debt.
So why can't I get in 25 grand of good debt to start a business that is going to show my kids that this is, what you can achieve in life if you work hard, hopefully pave the way for their future. And quite honestly, if I didn't take a big risk like that and try and make a big business that fills a gap, how am I ever going to afford to pay for a house?
Yeah.
You can't buy a house with a normal minimum wage job anymore.
No.
So something had to change. I want a nice house. I know the life I want. I want to treat my kids, take them on holidays. I need financial freedom to reach that. And a 9 to 5 wasn't going to do that for me. So I knew something had to change.
Tried that, been there.
Done that.
Got the t-shirt,
Yeah, not a fan of it.
A very quick break from this week's episode, which I hope you're enjoying. If you are enjoying, please remember, do help us and help yourself to make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing and reviewing the episode. So that's it. Short interlude from me. Let's get back to the conversation. So let's talk about that funding piece, Cassidy, because there's a lot of people out there that might get the energy, the spur, that ability to start the business. They might overcome some of those fears that they've got and they're going to go for it. But they never quite get the momentum because startup funding is near impossible to get. Be that business angel, even friends and family, but debt and loans can be difficult to achieve. But you did that. Mm-hmm. So you were successful in obtaining a startup loan for £25,000. Perhaps you could give some inspiration to some of the listeners to say what that story and journey, warts and all, was like, Cassidy.
Absolutely. So, as I said earlier, there's good debt and bad debt. And I think one of the things we do too quick is just throw out debt as a bad thing, like all the time. But actually, for me, 25 grand of debt, I'm in my mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
What is the worst that happens? And this is what I said to my husband. He said, well, do you really want to do it? And I said, yeah. I said, my theory is if this goes the absolute worst it goes, by the time I'm in my late 20s, I take out an IVA, I'm financially wiped on my credit score, I'm screwed for 5 years. Yeah. And then by my early 30s, I'm reset, done, and we go. With an average life expectancy of 82, 84,
something like that.
80s. Yeah. To be reset at 32, maybe, actually.
Yeah.
That's still young.
So that's how you manage the risk. But how did you go through the process and where did you get the funding from?
So we went to the British Business Bank.
Yeah.
A friend of mine had gone through them and got 25 grand as well for a loan. Started up a business with her sister. And, you know, as much as the paperwork seems stressful, she's very much like me, ADHD, paperwork's not her friend. But she did it. She pushed through. And she made it happen. And I saw her do it. And I thought to myself, well, if she can do it, why can't I? Like, why the hell can't I?
It's an inspirational story then, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So I was like, screw it. Let's do it. So I started filling out the paperwork, and don't get me wrong, it was hard. There were nights where I was staring at, like 40 pages of documents and just going, what am I doing? Does this make sense? How do I work this out? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I did rely a lot on my support network and my community, friends that have done things like go to uni. And I'm like, right, you know how to write lots of blurb on some paper.
Yeah.
Help. What do I do? Like, that was never my strong point. So I really pulled in friends for support wherever I could, got friends to look over things and just lent on people as much as I could. And I'm forever appreciative of those people that did look at those documents, because I think if I didn't have those couple of people that did know what I was up to and cheering me on from the sidelines, I probably wouldn't have followed through with the paperwork because it is a lot of paperwork, but it's worth it. And that's what you got to keep thinking of. You got to look at that end goal and go, right, is this worth it? Yes. Yeah, there were nights I was up until 2 a.m. filling out paperwork, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
So then, got that in, and then she bounced back and said, right, we need some more of this. We need more of this. And then at that point, the shop that I was going to take on that had an existing salon in it, as well as the shop next door, fell through. I'm very glad it fell through, because I would have been about 17 grand down the poo hole for absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's not the ideal shop for us. It's so much smaller than what we've got. And it would have been 2 shops, so it would have made us have to pay council tax on one. And just the price of purchasing an existing business would have eaten up our budget so much. And now looking at all the unexpected costs we did have, my God, I couldn't have done it with that.
Wow.
So
serendipity, it happens, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember I was literally walking down the road, stomping my feet. I had inquired about another shop down the other end of the street. And they were like, yeah, it's available. And I was like, oh, it's a bit above budget. But the space that it's got, it had 3 outback rooms that I could sublet, and that would pay for the rent. And then I would just have to cover gas, electric, water, and council tax. And I was like, I can do that. And then they emailed me and I was like, what's going on? And they were like, I'm so sorry. The person who viewed it this morning took it. And I was like, you are kidding me. I've had a property fall through. This one's no longer available. What on earth am I going to do with my life? This loan is about to go through. They need the details of where the hell I'm going to be operating from.
Where the money's going to get spent.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have nothing to show them because we've just lost our property. And I was stomping my feet down the road, looking in every estate agent's window to see if there was anything. And I saw this empty shop with a giant bright yellow window board in. And I'm like, that board's been there for ages. Why have I forgotten about it? Why haven't I seen that? This shop had been empty about 6 months.
Right.
But it's straight over my head. Completely ignored this giant empty unit, 700 square foot of unit.
Yeah.
It's an amazing shop. Really good price. It's a sublet from the landlord's property as well attached. So it was all bills included. So I don't have to pay rent and gas and electric and water and everything else. I just pay one fee a month.
Costs are fixed and
exactly. So easy, and it is a dream, and it's so much less stressful. So we then got that property.
Okay.
And it was like a saving grace. And I'm so glad the other properties fell through and weren't available and things.
I think it happens for a reason. I know that's kind of an old saying, but it's so true.
Oh, 100%. These things will sneak up on you when you least expect it. And our landlord is the sweetest landlord. We went to view it and I said, I love it. I want it. My loan doesn't come through for 2 or 3 more weeks. I'm aware you've got someone else interested. You're a businessman. If you need to fill it and they've got the money now, I fully understand. And he went, nice business idea. You got 2 weeks. And I was like, sorry, what? And our loan came through and the shop's ours. We've been there for almost a year now, and he is still an absolute diamond. I cannot thank him enough for taking that chance on us.
Strange, because we all have these people, you've spoken about quite a few, that help you along your way in your journey. Then they are the people in business that you never forget, are they?
Absolutely.
Without them and without their support, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Imagine if he had said, no, I want the money now. This other guy can take it, today. Give me the deposit right now. Yeah. Where would we be now? We don't know.
So I am hearing quite a lot in your story about resilience. From a very early time in life, all the way through to where you are today. Where do you think your resilience comes from? And what do you do to ensure you're able to be resilient?
Gosh. I think we've all got our things that have caused us to grow and, develop through our life. I've had a few things happen in life where you kind of got to be resilient. There's different circumstances. I think as a teenager, circumstances that happen, things. And then, growing into an adult, I think one of the resilience ones was working in hospitality at a young age. Oh my gosh, the hours are long, they are tough, but you want to get paid. And I'm not being funny, when you're 16, you do anything for a pay packet.
Yeah.
Like, you want to get paid at the end of the week, you'll pick up those shifts.
Yeah.
Like, it's your first taste of earning your own money as well. Like, it's so exciting and thrilling. So yeah, I'm sleep deprived.
Yeah.
I remember doing a shift and my ears were ringing. I was that tired. You get on through it because you want that pay packet. And then running a business when I was quite young, I was like, well, it's going to be hard work, I think if you come into business thinking it's going to be easy, you got the wrong idea of business.
Absolutely not, is it? No.
Exactly. But it's that thing of I'd rather work 100 hours a week for myself than 40 hours a week for someone else to line their pockets and make them be able to buy their dream house. I'd rather work 100 hours for me a week and be able to buy my dream house.
Brilliant.
So I think that helps. And I think also being a mother helped. Like, I had my first at 19 and then I had twins at 21. So when my twins were born, I had 3 kids aged 2 and under. And I think my mindset when I had my twins was very different. When I had my first, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? It cried, pick it up. I must smother, I must love it. It needs me. Whereas with my twins, I was like, there's 2 of them and I'm already raising another kid. If they cry, they cry. It will finish at some point. There's no point stressing about it. Yeah. I can calm them. I will find out what's wrong. I'm their mother. I'm capable of that. They either need changing or they need Calpol or they need milk or something. I'll work it out. They will stop crying. Yeah. There's no point stressing. So I think part of my resilience came from that because, there's 3 of them really close together.
Yeah, you're still young yourself at that point, aren't you? You're still maturing and finding out who you are at that point as well.
I was very much, you're either going to get on with it and be all right, or you can stress and cry yourself and make a big thing of it and you're going to be worse. And I was like, well, might as well just plod on with it.
So perspective is...
Yeah, massively so. Just having that different perspective on it of, well, it's going to be all right.
Yeah. And how do you now balance? Because there is this challenge, isn't it? And even in this world we live, there is more of a burden on mothers than fathers, even to this day and age, isn't there? So how do you now balance being a mother of 3 still relatively young children with driving and building a business?
Not gonna lie, it's hard. I would say that I'm quite lucky. My husband is a very hands-on dad. He is, if he's not, so he does 3 shifts on, 3 shifts off. So if he's on his 3 off, I'm staying late at work, I'm doing extra bits. And he is so understanding of it. As I said, right now, it's school run time. Yeah. My husband's picking the kids up. He's sorting out dinner.
I said, do we need to finish the podcast at a certain time? So you went, no, husband's doing the job.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm very fortunate that the man that I chose to have babies with is a brilliant father. He gives his all to his kids and he fully supports me as well in the fact of he understands that I am very career driven. He very much understands that my line of work is just as important as his, although he's got a fairly important job. He's an operations manager for a big security firm locally. Okay. So, he's still got quite a high up role, but he understands that we're equals. Yeah, and he totally respects that I am more than just the mother and that he's a dad. And actually still to this day, I get so many people go, oh, who's got the kids? And I'm like, the other parent? Is
the other one that's responsible for them?
The other half their DNA? Is that not normal? But I do understand that some dads aren't as hands-on and some people aren't quite as lucky to get that, It is still a juggling act. Yeah. We utilize things like after school club quite a lot. We lean on friends and family where we can, half terms. What a stress they are. Yeah. Especially, summer holidays when my other half's work really does pick up more and it becomes a real juggling act. But we've got grandparents that are very heavily involved. We've got friends that are heavily involved,
Yeah, so that support network, again, that we refer to. And
it takes a village. It really does.
I love that. It takes a village. Yeah,
it does.
It's great. You've got to have those people around you.
100%. Having a good support network, I think, makes all the difference with business, mothering, all of it.
Brilliant. And what's your vision for the business? You're 11 months in, but I can see, first time we've met today, Cassidy, and I can see there's drive and hunger.
Mm-hmm.
You want that house of your dreams. You want to provide for your kids. All these reasons why I think I started kind of businesses I did all those years ago. So you've got the drive, you've got the hunger.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you really want to take the business?
Okay. So I know what my goals are. I know that this year I want to grow the business and expand in one way or another. We kind of got two routes we're looking at. One is sort of not as bricks and mortar is one side of it. And the other side would be, could we potentially open a second store this year, one way or another? We're looking at different perspectives on it. But the 5-year plan is within our first 5 years, I want a second store. In fact, no, I don't even want it. We will have a second store within that first 5 years. Bring it from the universe. And then our 10-year plan is that we will have multiple stores. I want Cassidy's to become a nationwide name that is known in the beauty industry for being high quality, to have those high standards. And even if you can't trust that the government are going to start policing things, if you see the Cassidy's tick of approval on a salon, it means something. That is my goal. You know, we've been fighting for years. When I first did my course when I was 16, they were saying, any day now the government's going to bring in some sort of policing on it where you're going to have some sort of qualification and yada, yada, yada. They can't even police aesthetics at the moment. There are people shoving needles in people after a 6-hour course. If they can't get that sorted yet, Wales have just brought in some sort of, you know, a bit more licensing with it. But the UK is still so behind. Like in England, there is nothing for that. There is really no policing. So if they're not with it with aesthetics yet, we're nowhere near it for nails. Nowhere near. So if we can make a difference within not only the industry, but keeping customers and clients safe by having that Cassidy's tick of approval, that is a big goal. I want it to really mean something within the industry, that this place is safe, they're qualified, they're good. You can trust them.
Brilliant. I love that. And how often and how do you remind, because we all have goals, don't we? Or those of us that are driven, do you think that's where I want to be, that's where I'm going to get to. But sometimes in daily life and just when you're having a difficult day within the business, you sometimes lose track of that North Star. And 100%. You've got a true North Star because you've been able to articulate it. How do you keep yourself reminded that that's where you want to be and that's where you want to go and not get lost in the mirth of some of the stuff that we have to get involved in?
So I'm going to give a bit of credit here. My old team leader when I was within network marketing, as I mentioned earlier, Kelly, doing things like aspirations and staying on track was a big part of what I learned from her.
Okay. Hugely.
She was incredible and I never realized how important this was. So if you're watching at home, pay attention to this bit. But you know, having dream boards, mapping out and not just going, I want to be successful. Well, how? You really need to know every single detail. So for me, one of my stepping stones was the company I used to be with. One of the big things was when you reach certain points, you get like designer handbags and stuff. And I grew up my mom was a single mum with a single child on benefits. We didn't have fancy stuff. Designer bag, absolutely not. Let's go Primark. You know, I never grew up with that. So for me, even having a low-end designer bag that's like £50, oh my God. So for me, it was that stepping stone. And it was, oh my God, I got my £50 bag. Then I got a £90 bag. And then I said, right, there's a travel bag I want. And I knew the exact one. It was a floral design and it was gorgeous. And I had my heart set on it. And I finally reached the target I'd set myself to say, that's when I'm going to get it. And it was out of stock, discontinued, and I was heartbroken. I hunted on Vinted for 3 months until I found one. And that travel bag comes with me on every business event. Brilliant. It's like my good luck charm.
It's just that reminder.
Yep. And then I found the matching scarf for that collection as well in a secondhand clothes like boutique. It's called The Green Dress in Wareham. And it's all like nice designer stuff and fancy secondhand stuff. Gorgeous boutique. She's amazing. And I found the matching scarf on her Instagram. And I was like, oh, I've got to do it. And farewell.
Quick run.
So, there it is. My little Ted Baker scarf. So for some people, that's like nothing. Yeah. But for me, that pattern, that scarf, the bag that matches
whole thing
was such a huge thing for me. Like I treated myself to this scarf because I'd had a really good month. We had the money and I was like, wow, I can treat myself to something. And I knew that all these little things meant so much. So now I still do that. I still very much look at what my visions are, what my goals are, things like that.
Yeah, and what the building blocks are
100%.
to get to where you want to go.
For me now, they're a bit bigger. So when I first started, it was a £40 bag, a £150 travel bag, the small little stepping stones. For me now, I can 100% in my head picture the house I want. I can tell you, the rough location. I know it's going to be in the countryside. We want about an acre of land, maybe a little bit more. I would love it to have a little granny annex. I know that the budget of it for what we envision is probably going to be about $750,000. But that is my dream house.
Yeah.
Like, I know what I want, and I know that my kids are going to grow up in the countryside. Like, I can envision it. Yeah. So, like, every little detail of it. I can tell you what car I want. I can tell you what I want to accessorize my car with when I first pass my test, which will be this year, before December, making it happen. All these little details. Like, I know that my dream car is a Subaru Impreza. Can't wait. It's going to be the traditional blue with all the graphics down the side. Can't wait for the day I can afford one and, not have to worry about the fact that they are fuel-guzzling demons or that they break all the time. Yeah. I want to be in a position where I can go, well, it's a fun car and I want it.
There it is.
It's not going to be my daily, but...
So you really do believe in the manifestation of things, don't you?
I think part of it's manifesting, and I do love that whole theory of putting it out to the universe and bringing it to you. But also, I think if you can envision it that much, it makes you so much more driven. Yeah, knowing what you're working for. And I think
that's the bit about manifestation that is truly, you can put it out to the universe, but actually, if you really are thinking about it, then you become focused on it, and you become focused on doing the things you need to do
to make it happen and going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, right now, here today, I could have gone, a podcast, scary.
Yeah.
Not sure if I want to do that. I might be too shy. But I sat there and went, absolutely yes. Yeah. Like, I didn't even question it. I replied to that email and went, yes, I'm doing it. Brilliant. Absolutely. Because it's a growth opportunity.
Yeah, and I know. Growth mindset again, isn't it? Put yourself out there, see what happens.
Exactly. Why would I say no to an opportunity that could grow my business and get me one step closer to my end goal?
Yeah.
I would never say no to that. Brilliant. Because I want my goals.
Brilliant. And if we got somebody in their 20s listening to the podcast, thinking about starting a business, what hints and tips or words of wisdom and advice, Cassidy, would you give them?
Okay, let's try and bullet point it and not waffle. Be authentically you. You sell yourself. People buy from people that they know, like, and trust. Just be you. Your people will come to you. Don't people please. Don't try and find people, because I could people please. I could go out there and go, 1 day courses, be qualified really quick. No. Because I attract the people that want better education.
You know your niche, you focus on it. And
exactly.
Double down on it.
And I think, although I've always gone by that motto, I struggled with it at first because I came back into the industry and I was like, right, I've got a business now, have to look proper, can't go annoying people with my opinion. And then it got to a point where I was like, this isn't as authentic as I want it to be. And I started putting out reels that were like, this is red flags in salons that you should be looking for. This is a red flag with education. Why is a 1 day course good enough? You should be looking for better. Don't let your clients down. Don't let you down. And actually, since I've started putting those out, my business is so much more authentically me. And will it ruffle a few feathers? Yes, because we are making a huge change in the industry. We want education to get better. And I know that there's going to be people that have been doing these short courses and things for a long, long time that are going to be a bit miffed by it, because that's how they've been making their living.
That's how they've made a profit.
But I don't sit there and go, it's their fault for thinking it's good enough, because I think so many people have been brainwashed to believe it's good enough, because that's been the norm for... I've been in the industry 11 years, and 1 2 day courses were perfectly normal that whole time. So people think that's acceptable because that's how they were taught. It's how their educators were taught. It's normal.
So tip 1, be authentic.
Be authentic. Just do it. Rip the plaster off. Look at what's the worst that's going to happen. Is anyone going to die? No, do it. Just take the risk, especially if you're young and in your 20s. What is the absolute worst that happens?
Yeah. There's always time to recover, isn't there?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You're not, in your older years. You're not in your golden years and, later down the line. You're in your 20s. This is the age where you make your mess ups and you take risks. There's 20-year-olds doing stupid things every day. So take the risk, start a business, and if it goes wrong, so what? You tried.
Brilliant. Love that approach. Love that attitude. Right. You ready for a few quick fire questions to end up on? One word to describe your approach to business.
Authentic.
Authentic. I'd go with that. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Ooh, probably people management.
Okay.
Looking at speaking the right language to different people.
Yeah.
You can be using the right words. The right words in the wrong language with so many people. Something that I absolutely loved learning about was color personality theory for sales and management.
Yeah.
Oh my God, game changer. And it makes your communications with potential customers and employees so much easier.
Yeah, when you can understand who you're talking to and the language you need to use. Great piece of advice. The biggest business challenge you have right now that might be keeping you up awake at night?
I think still being an early business, it's still that whole cash flow. Are we doing good enough? And I think also self-doubt, because we're still working hard to get to where we want to go. I would say self-doubt more than anything. As much as I know I go, woo, confidence, let's go, don't care what others think, be authentic and all this. We're only human. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we do compare ourselves and it can be hard at times. And, growth isn't instant. And I think with such a go, go, go attitude, sometimes it's hard to see that growth isn't instant.
No.
And then you can compare yourself. And
then the self-talk digs in, doesn't it?
Exactly. That am I good enough?
Comes in and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. But we are in year one.
Yeah.
We're doing very well for year one.
What you've achieved in year one. Yeah.
Exactly. And once you step back and you actually look at it from an outside perspective, you give yourself a talking to, you're all right. But there is still those, little demons in your head. There's a business coach actually within the beauty industry. Her name's Joanna. I can't remember her surname. She used to be a weather girl on the telly. It's amazing. Does a lot of confidence coaching. And I listened to a workshop she did, and it was all about getting rid of the bitch in your head.
Okay.
And saying goodbye to that self-doubt and how to really kick her to the back. And it was amazing because I think we realized that we all do have that self-doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just how do we deal with it? And some of us maybe better or learn to be better at overcoming it.
Exactly.
And realizing it's just the chimp on our shoulder.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Or the bitch in the head.
Exactly.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl, 100%. Ask me to get up early to do some paperwork, not happening. I roll out of bed after my husband's already started getting the kids ready for bed because he knows I need an extra 15 minutes. Again, as I said, highly supportive, is incredible. But I will be the person staying up till 1 a.m. to catch up on some paperwork, schedule in some posts, do my marketing.
It's what works for you. And that one piece of advice that you would give your younger self. So maybe that 19-year-old that finds out she's pregnant. What one piece of advice would you give your younger self, Cassidy?
Gosh, listen to your heart, do what feels right. When I was at that crossroads, not knowing whether I wanted to take out a loan and expand or bin it all off and be a mum for a bit, it was so hard. And I felt like I was letting people down by closing my business. But just put yourself first. Brilliant. Put yourself first. Be selfish for 5 minutes because no one in your life is guaranteed, whether that be husband, parents, friends. Yeah. Everyone in your life could up and leave you instantly. The only person you are with for your whole entire life is you. So be selfish and put yourself first. And also, you can't give your best to other people if you're not putting yourself first.
Brilliant. Love that. And my last question before I finish always with one specific question, but what does your grandma now, who's clearly played a really important part in your life, what does your grandma think about what you're doing right now?
God, she's a woman of not many words. She's quiet, but she shows it. She very much is her love language is acts of service. So she pops into the shop probably twice a week to potter around and do little things that annoy her, like putting up getting a clock because there wasn't one in the back treatment room and it annoyed her. So she put up a clock. Or coming and changing the water filter for the kettle so it doesn't get limescale. Little things. But she's just always in there pottering around doing little things to help out and be useful, or washing towels even, just little things. She is still such a key piece of our puzzle and she's just incredible. As is her daughter, my mum. She was a single mum, raised me to be, I would like to say, a fairly strong woman. I saw
she succeeded at that, Cassidy.
I hope so. So, the pair of them combined, you know, my gran giving me that opportunity that, you know, to put me onto that course. Financially, I could never afford that course when I was 16, especially even with working a bit. You know, you're stupid at 16. I was spending money on McDonald's and takeaways, and that was pretty much it. Until the next week's pay packet where I repeated it again. So, you know, the financial backing from my grandma, you know, and just the upbringing I had from my mum, being that single mum that was, you know, raising me to be a strong girl, to be confident, to stand up for myself, and also to empower me with my dreams. Like, you know, I couldn't have done it without either of them.
Yeah, what a great combination. So the final question I always finish this podcast with is, what is your personal definition of success?
I think that depends on every person. Whatever you see as your success is what you see as your success.
So what's that mean for you?
For me, that means giving my kids a life where we've got the financial freedom to give them a comfortable upbringing, where we don't have to struggle. You know, I know everyone says that money doesn't make you happy. However, it sure is a hell of a relief on stress if you're not wondering if you can pay rent this month, or, you know, feeling like your kids are missing out because you can't take them on a holiday, or struggling when they're going through changes. You know, having that financial freedom to be able to ensure that my kids have that comfortable upbringing, that they get the experiences in life, that, you know, that we're set. Brilliant. That for me is success. A happy, healthy, stable family.
That correlates with everything you've said during the course of this discussion. If people are listening to this and they want to find out more about you, find out more about Cassidy's Beauty Academy, where can they go?
So if you head over to Instagram, we are Cassidy's Pool for the business. And if you want to follow me personally, happy for people to do that. Go follow Cassidy Jade Macken.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you for being an incredible guest and bringing your energy to the conversation, Cassidy. Thank you for being an awesome guest on the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Wow, what a conversation that was. Such an enjoyable conversation with Cassidy about her story, her life journey, and everything that she had to say has got lessons in it for us all. Whether you're just starting your business journey or an established business owner, there's certainly some takeaways and reminders in that conversation for me. So if you have enjoyed the episode, then please do subscribe on your favorite channel. Do not ever miss an episode. And if you want to find out more about Evolve, then please do go to evolveadvisory.co.uk. See you next time.